I remember going around certain areas of the UK and I felt like a foreigner.
These are the guys that are now ruling the UK. People are shocked.
But that is going to be a failed country, in my opinion, in a lot of respects. Someone was running around with a sword and stabbed 5 people. This is a complete fucking mess. Someone needs to deal with it, and that's a lack of really strong leadership. If you go to the UK, you'll never see a British flag. Because if you have a British flag, you're seen as a racist, like supremacist. Joe Biden's a bit of a joke in terms of how he's in charge in the first place. I have no idea.
Don't? That's all that he said. Don't? So they did. What now?
I was like, what the fuck is wrong with America?
Charlie, I want to talk to you today a lot about the lead generation, about the money, about the fitness industry, the technical stuff, technical questions. So I always say that I want to bring 2 things to my audience, whether it's give value or to entertain people. So if we can do both, I believe we're going to have a win-win situation.
Edutainment is my favorite type of content. I try and make my YouTube channel.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's best.
Introduce yourself. So you're originally from the UK. Right now you live in Dubai, 6 months. 6 months you travel across the world. You help people building fitness industry, in the fitness industry businesses, right?
Yeah, so my name's Charlie Johnson, short synopsis of who I am, what I've done. I currently live in Dubai. I've lived there for just under 3 years, originally from a rural area of the UK, just outside of London, like countryside, green, very, very different to Dubai. I now run a mastermind helping trainers grow their fitness businesses and people grow online businesses in terms of recruitment and finance. I'm a former failed personal trainer who sold over $10 million of fitness programs online. I was also a real estate agent, and we've helped over 100 trainers make 6 figures in the last 12 months. We've helped 5 trainers make their first $1 million.
Was that difficult to switch from personal trainer doing offline job and to go online?
So in that synopsis, I went from personal trainer to becoming a real estate agent. I did that for 7 years. And then went online. So I did like the Gary V side hustle of creating my business whilst working full time. And this was probably started in like 2016 when I started to see what was going on social media. And I had 2 really big influences at the time. One was Gary Vaynerchuk and 2 was Grant Cardone.
Oh yeah.
And I remember like a distinct moment driving around in my car in a place called Easter in Surrey, like really green. It was like springtime. And I remember listening to this podcast from Gary Vaynerchuk when he was explaining about content and how it works and like how you can use it for sales. And I was like, holy shit, this is the opportunity to get me out of this like 4-box prison I basically got myself stuck into, which probably so many people who are listening to this can probably relate, where they're stuck in the matrix of the 9-to-5 job. And for me, I always knew I had the ability to do more, but I just needed to try and find a way out.
Don't you think that Gary Vee right now is like stuck? I want to say stuck for 5 to 6 years. He's not relevant, I want to say, as he was in 2016 to 17.
I wouldn't say he's not relevant. I would say he's very much a thought leader, but I think his content has maybe stagnated out. I think he's probably maybe less of a superstar than he was, because I think there's so many other people now doing it that's diluted him down. But I think he's still probably the OG of social media and like the attention market, as he talks about.
But have you ever thought why he does so much content? For instance, I unfollowed him from all the social media, from YouTube, Instagram, because 5, 6, 10 posts a day. I just can't keep up with this.
In that respect, I would say he probably posts too much, but I don't think he cares. He does a lot of stuff of just testing, which is why it's interesting. Like if you look at some of the content he makes, you can see they're trying new stuff all the time. So that's why I'll look at and the same in terms of we talk about paid ads. Like if you find like what works, the best thing you can actually do is just look at the most successful people. So a really easy hack for anyone, and this would actually work for social media as well. If you go Google Facebook ad library and you type in Grant Cardone, you type in Gary Vaynerchuk, whoever, you can see all the Facebook ads these people are running or any post they're boosting. And like, okay, cool. This is clearly what's working, because then this ad's been running for 6 months. It must be making money. So from like a marketing point of view, there's a lot of things you can do strategically like that. But even from an organic content point of view, you can look, okay, cool. This is the type of thing that's working on paid. Even if I made something like that, like organic, it's probably going to work.
And people don't realize how big Uncle G is, right? Yeah. His university is huge. Besides that, he has a lot of real estate So he manages, I want to say, 1.6 or even more billion dollars of real estate. That's a lot. And his university is huge. The 10X movement, the 10X conferences are huge. And I believe he's still relevant, and I want to say he's still growing is because of one thing, because he keeps his hand on a pulse. I mean, right now, for instance, he tweets a lot of politics, right? Because that's relevant for the Americans, because this is the election year. So I believe he talks not only about marketing, sales, real estate, and something, but something else. But instead, Gary Vaynerchuk does all the marketing for 10 years right now, I want to say.
Yeah, I think that's what Grant, he shows who he really is and his passion for things, and he's very different in some, like almost like in the UK we have an expression, it's called like Marmite. Marmite's like this weird like sauce thing you put on like bread, and like people either love it or they hate it. That's their marketing slogan, and that's like what Grant's like. And if you look at the most successful people, generally are like Marmite. Like Donald Trump would be another example, right? People either love him like fanatically, or they're like they hate him, like they want him to die, right? So it's like there's no in the middle. And I think when you see people like that, it's very, very interesting because they don't give a shit, but they'll also try and provoke people to give them some more hate to like push things on. Even Grant, actually, I'm smiling, I think about it, says that all the time. It's like he likes when people hate on him because it just pushes his stuff out more.
So I've been listening to his latest podcast with London Real.
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
Not yet.
So he said that he tries to sue one of the guys that said that he's a pedophile, I want to say.
Yeah, I heard that.
So that's a big time deal for him, just to say that I'm not the one that you're saying I am, and he's paying a lot of money for the lawyers.
Well, I think if you look at people who are successful with a big brand name, the most valuable thing they have is their name. So like if someone's trying to take shots with them or something like really extreme like that where there's no evidence,
that's crazy.
If you don't try to defend that also says a lot. So like I think you almost have no choice of like, and if I was him in that situation, I would do exactly the same thing. He has no lack of resources and money, so he could also pretty much bury the other person in terms of legal costs on that as well.
Yeah. But from one side, you got the First Amendment, right? You have the freedom to speech. But on the other side is you can't say that a person is a pedophile, bro, if you have no evidence. That's like...
Well, this is where the world is completely warped, and I also think social media is even worse. This is why I like podcasts, because you can be a bit more raw with what you talk about. But like a lot of the times I want to post something on Instagram or wherever, and I end up like, hold it back, because I'm like, that could get my account disabled or get flagged or reported as whatever, because things can also be like misread sometimes, or if someone doesn't quite like it the way you want, which shows we're very much in a controlled society to some degrees, which is why I like, for example, Elon Musk buying Twitter, or X now, is like basically do whatever you want.
But that's in 2024, that's not like it was in 2020 or 2021. Do you remember you couldn't even argue with some kind of topics? You were just banned for life. And then they lifted the ban, the hot topics, but your channel is banned, or you just missed 2 to 3 years. What do I have to do? So a lot of channels were banned, or just like you said, red flagged. The same London Reel was deleted, I want to say, a few months ago, with 2.5 million subscribers and lots of content and podcasts. The guy's doing everything from the scratch right now.
I didn't know that happened.
Yeah. He's got, I want to say, he now has 2 to 3 channels different, and he tries to keep up and upload the old stuff, the new stuff. And in the UK, there were just elections of the mayors, right? Yeah. He failed big. Did you see the result, the outcome?
No, I didn't. I don't really follow UK politics.
Oh, brother. Whew. Let me get...
UK politics is a bit of a shit show. I think we're the only country in the world who had like the shortest, I don't even know what her name was, Liz something. We had a prime minister for like a week or 2 weeks or something.
Oh yeah, she messed up.
Yeah. And
but she's having her pension for life. A lot of money.
This is why the UK and Europe is so flawed, because it's like a socialist system to provide for people forever, which is basically never going to work. And this is also why it's an amazing thing, but it's destined to fail at some point. The biggest employer in Europe is the NHS. That's right, NHS, the National Health System or Service, basically healthcare service in the UK. There is no way in 50 years' time that's still going to exist or be completely free, because it cannot be continued to be funded by taxpayer revenue. And it's so inefficient as is like government systems. And in terms of what I think is also happening here in like the US, Canada, with like tax rates trying to like increase heavily, like Canada's insane now, is that when you actually like tax businesses, the money's so inefficient when it goes into the government because they just lose so much of it. It actually worsens the economy so much more.
They don't lose the money, bro.
Well, it goes into certain people's pockets. Well, they lose it somewhere in someone's pocket,
Yeah.
right? But it's crazy in terms of the way that's all going.
UK should just look at the Argentina. So in Argentina for the last 40 years, the socialist heaven, as you want to say, right? So more than 50% of all the jobs were created by the government, and they failed. That's a failed country. Thank God, Javier Milei was elected last year, I want to say, right? And he's doing his job. So in regards to the UK, so results of this weekend's elections. The mayor of London is a Muslim. The mayor of Birmingham, Muslim. Leeds, Blackburn, Sheffield, Oxford, Luton, Oldham, Rochdale, Muslims. Are not just Muslims like you can meet in Dubai, right? The extremists. These are the guys that are now ruling the UK. People are shocked. I've seen a short video of a lot of Muslims, like with the women with the dressing, just marching in London. Thousands of them, thousands. That's the UK?
And this is almost a very difficult, like even from like, I'm 34 years old. I remember when I was a child, it's very different. But if you look at the crazy shit that's happening now, like a friend of mine, and this is why so many people are moving to Dubai who have money from the UK, you don't have to pay tax and it's super safe. There was, I think 4 or 5 days ago, someone was running around with a sword and stabbed 5 people. Like an actual sword, like by a tube station in London. Like, because the problem is the country's lost complete control in terms of that point of view, in almost like an identity of who you are. And also secondly, in terms of like the government's ability to control its people. Police have no control. No one has any control. And that's why I think it's interesting if you look at like a country like Dubai, technically a dictatorship, has one leader who's basically like, this is what's happening, this is what goes.
Yeah.
It's like a perfect society because everyone knows what the rules are, everyone knows what needs to be done. There's very, very low taxes, safest place in the world.
These are Muslims as well.
These are Muslims.
The true Muslims.
But they're different. And this is where, for me, that's been a very interesting experience because I grew up in a white private school. There was like one person who wasn't white in my primary school. So like, and I now live in an Arabic country. So it's a completely different perspective. And now I can see like how amazing like Muslim religion is when you actually see like the benefits of it. But even when you can't live in Western Europe, we only see the negatives and maybe the shit that happens in the UK in terms of why there's so much like conflict. But if you look at somewhere like Dubai, for example, Christians, Muslims, atheists, whoever can all live in complete harmony. So it's why can this not happen in the UK? Why can this not happen wherever else? Because there's so much like hate agenda against each other that just gets riled up.
Yeah. And the London is called what? The stabbing capital of the world.
It's insane. It's insane.
How much time do you spend in the UK? A year?
As little as possible. I went back I lost my passport when I was in Las Vegas last year. I wasn't drunk. I didn't even drink, so I don't even know what happened to it. So that was a pain. I had to go back to the UK to get a new passport. I was there for 4 days and then left. And my plan this year is not to go there at all. So like for me, I love the countryside and the greenery and stuff of the UK, but that is going to be a failed country in my opinion in a lot of respects because of the way it's being run. The economy's not doing well. It's a sinking ship. And if you look back historically, and this is what's interesting, so I'm coming on to in a minute maybe, is that the British Empire was the most powerful thing in the world. We controlled like 25% of the world.
100 years ago.
Yeah, from a very small little island. That's now completely wiped out because we became very soft. And I think this is what's interesting with the American election right now. If you look at what happening with the US, I come in and out quite a lot. And every time I notice, the standard of people in the US is falling. I went to Universal World yesterday, like 90% of people are super overweight. Your population is getting weaker in terms of people. Your empire is failing. And if you look at the other countries in terms of like Russia, China, India, like they're gaining strength quickly. And if you look at what's happening, I think America's slowly losing its ability in terms of being the world leader, and there's going to have to be a very drastic change to try and maintain that pole position.
But that's not good, because the stronger the US is worldwide, the better it is for the whole world. Because it relies, the economy, the world economy is what? US and China, that's it. China is the manufacturer. They don't buy a lot, they just manufacture a lot. If USA fails, then the UK fails, then the European Union fails.
My opinion is that Western society is very much going to struggle in the next 50 years. And I think you're very much going to see the rise of the Middle East, Asia, and then probably Africa as well, because they have so much resources, even in like people, land, actual mineral wealth. And if you look at the Middle East, they have more money than they know what to do. They're literally just pumping it out of the ground now.
So obviously that 100 years ago, 200 years ago, what Great Britain did to the whole world is not good with India and etc., right? But I want to say they gave up India 1950s, 1960s, something. But so from 1960, for instance, to 2000, the UK was almost the capital of the world. London was the financial capital of the world. But in the last 10 years, bro, it's unimaginable. Like the stabbing capital of London. So you've got a nice Rolex on your wrist. You wouldn't wear it in London.
You get your hand cut off. And I've had friends who've walked out of like really expensive nightclubs in Mayfair, and someone's smashed them over the back of the head with like a champagne bottle and taken their watch.
In London.
Yeah, and then like a good friend of mine who has also moved to Dubai, he saw someone get stabbed on his street in London. He has kids. He's like, yeah, we're leaving straight away. Because like this is the reality of when you lose all control of a society, and the government is too weak to be able to deal with it because they let people off in terms of prison sentences. Police have like barely any of them actually have any weapons, so no one listens to them. And it's just become a very soft society where everyone wants like a fucking cuddle in the second place trophy rather than people having the hard, difficult conversation of like, this is a complete fucking mess, someone needs to deal with it. And that's a lack of really strong leadership and almost too many cooks in the kitchen where everyone wants to talk about solving the problem, but no one actually wants to solve it, if that makes sense.
The UK is, I want to say, the second country in the world, right? After the US. So it's definitely number one in Europe. It dictates everything. Have you seen...
I would say financially, yes, but I think it's probably losing pace on that to Germany and France. But Germany also has a huge amount of problems as well. Huge now.
And people don't realize that.
No.
I've been to Germany. I've talked to people, fellow Lithuanians that live there. Bro, that's a socialist country. That became a true socialist country. Germany. With all the manufacturing that they have. Just the automotive manufacturing, BMW, Mercedes, Volkswagen, right? They earn a lot of money. They manufacture. The GDP of the country is huge, but they struggle because they let in a lot of illegal immigrants, and they pay salaries to the people for doing nothing.
And I think what's interesting now is you see a lot of politicians are playing the voting game by letting loads of immigrants into a country to get the votes. And I think this is what's happening in a lot of these places, that they're trying to let big populations of people in to get citizenship, so then they can essentially stay in power as a ruling party. Because if we bring an extra couple of million people in who are all going to vote for us, that could be enough to throw elections easily.
But you generally hate your country if you do so, because you realize, you know, on the bottom of the heart, you know that they're going to ruin this country. They have no chance. They have not even a single thought of integrating into the society. They bring their country with themselves. So,
and I feel I can say this because I live in a Muslim country as a white guy. I remember going around certain areas of the UK and I felt like a foreigner because I was like the only white guy on the street, and was made to feel slightly uncomfortable about that. And there's areas of the UK that almost like people who are Caucasian wouldn't want to go. Now, I say that because I live in an Arabic Muslim country and I'm fully like integrated in that. I'm by no means a racist, but I'll just call it as it is. Like, it's the fact. And I think that's where the UK has lost its identity in terms of, and my opinion is once that's gone, you can't really get that back.
Only with power, with the riots, maybe even, I don't want to say this, but when your own people go against each other. That's the worst thing that can happen to a country. But then
even if you look at that perspective, there's more, I'm not going to use the word foreigners because they're British citizens, but more people who weren't originated from the UK than there are people who've now come in. Like, it's very, very close in terms of like who has the power in terms of the numbers. And even if you go to certain areas of Birmingham, certain areas of like London, certain areas of Manchester, whatever. It's not what it used to be a long time ago.
Someone benefits from this, that's for sure. But they're thinking short term, I want to say. Maybe 5 to 10 years. They're going to vote for us. Our party is going to be still in Congress or in Parliament somewhere else. But in 50 years, you're done.
And this is the problem. So this is why I say about Dubai, for example, you got one ruler who's in charge. They're not thinking what happens in the next 3 years. They're thinking what happens in the next 30 years. Like they've said, our goal is to make, by 2030, to make Dubai the best place in the world to live. They want to double the size of the population. Like they're very clear, very ambitious. This is where we're going. This is what we want to do. If you look at like the UK, for example, they're trying to go week to week to survive. Like how can you have a big vision and achieve that if you can't even look past like next Monday?
Yeah, but bro, this is Dubai, the great leader, the good leader, right? This is an example of a good leadership. On at the same time, Iran, the same guy for 30 years. And they're going nowhere. So having a guy who is not having any elections at all, it's not a good thing.
It depends on. You can have a bad leader and a good leader. It depends on the society, I think, agreeing around it. But I think that is very much dependent. You could look at other completely different kettle of fish. But you look at things like Saddam Hussein, for example, who was a leader for a very long period of time. He probably wasn't always bad, but probably fell out of line pretty quickly, and you see that with quite a few of them. I think where ultimate power goes to people's heads to some degree. But if you have the right core values of a society and a leadership and a ruling family, then I don't think that's ever going to be an issue. I think that's almost the culture of the people in those countries. Like people in the UAE and Dubai are very, very kind generally, and they want to try and help society as much as they can. Whereas you look at some other places in the world where you go to the country and it feels like a take, like the country's trying to suck as much money out of it from whoever comes in, whereas they don't really have a vision of where they're looking to go.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's get back to business. So let's start with the lead generation, right? So from your perspective, from your experience, what are the best lead generators?
The best thing that anyone can do right now, if you're not already doing this, is obviously making content, because if people don't know you, they can't buy from you. So becoming best known beats best. So if more people know you, you're ultimately going to beat everybody else. So the first thing you should really be doing is what we like to call our 4C method. So as you create content, create conversations, and if you can sell on the phone, create calls to then create clients. And the goal essentially is you create some type of digital media, podcast, shorts, whatever it might be, and then you use that to drive traffic to then try and have a conversation with those people, to then get them onto a phone call, to then sell them your product, and then they become a client. And essentially what we also do once we've got that framework lined with someone is we then use that and basically put it on steroids by using paid advertising. So if you look at something like Instagram, for example, or Facebook, we can put spend behind certain posts to then drive traffic into us. And I'll give an example of this. So say, for example, let's say you're a fitness trainer. Say I made an example of like, here's how you get bigger arms. You do bicep curl like this, not like this. You rotate your hand X, Y, Z way. Comment below arms, I'll send you over my free arm guide. What you can then do is when people comment below arms, you can set up a system called ManyChat, which is basically like an automation from Facebook that will then message the person to be like, hey, Charlie, here's a copy of the arms guide. Let me know how you get on. And you basically push that post out on paid ads. So you're basically generating leads on autopilot. The second thing which we do, which is truly unique, is we have a fully automated AI chat bot that will handle any of the replies coming back in and then basically book them in for a sales call. And this is when you can basically automate as much of the lead flow as possible, because you can I can generate traffic, I can spend more. I have someone who can basically convert the whole conversation, who can handle 100 conversations per minute and not make a mistake.
Yeah.
And then we just need someone to take a call if we're going to sell it on the phone. If you were going to do a click and buy, it's slightly different. And that's basically one of the big overall frameworks. And then there's similar systems but for different platforms. There's something like LinkedIn works very well because the average income of a user on LinkedIn is much higher, and it's a bit of a blue ocean because not many people look at LinkedIn as a platform, if that makes sense.
Yeah. What about how much should I give away for free? For instance, you mentioned this guide for biceps curls. How much should I give away for free, just not to get too much?
There is nothing you can give away which is too much for free. So like even that 4C course I recommended there, like we have a full course in terms of lead generation. If anyone searches at Charlie Johnson Fitness, it'll be the link in my bio, or we can put it below this video.
Sure.
That will basically give everyone a blueprint of how to generate leads online for free. And the reason you want to give things away for free is that the thing we're selling is the accountability and how to execute, because we don't live in a world where there's a lack of information.
Yeah.
We live in a world of lack of application and executing. It's why if you look on LinkedIn, I think the third highest term on people's LinkedIn profiles is strategy. Not in the top 1,000th is implementation. Because we all want to talk a good game, but no one wants to do it.
I got you. So you can't get away too much for free.
No, not in my opinion, because the more value you create in the world, the more people are going to buy into you, and the more people love this podcast, for example, the more people are going to share it, the more people are going to like it, the more people are going to buy into you, the more people are going to buy. And ultimately, I think the more value you give, it's like a goodwill bank account. Like I bought stuff from people who, like, I've absorbed so much of their content. I was like, I just want to give you money. I'll give you a great example. Alex Hormozy. So Alex Hormozy, when he first heard his podcast, maybe like 3 years ago, I listened to probably like 300 episodes in a month or something stupid. And then he came out with his first book, bought that, came out with his next book, and there was a bundle of 3 books and a hat. I was like, fuck it, I'll buy all of them. Like, I don't need 3 books and a hat, I only need 1, but I'll just buy them all anyway. Because I feel that much goodwill to that individual because he puts out so much useful content that I feel obliged to try and pay him for it, if that makes sense.
Please don't tell me you've bought Gary Vaynerchuk's Gary V Friends. NFTs?
No.
That was ridiculous. Yeah, I knew right away that's some bullshit scam.
Yeah, that's retarded. So, my opinion on NFTs and things like that is a form of Ponzi scheme. Like, I love crypto and I'm big into crypto. Although I will say fundamentally at the moment it doesn't really have any present term use. Bitcoin to some degree, it's basically a media machine of what coin can get the most hype for now. I don't think it's not going to be like that forever. But I think things like NFTs is a form of Ponzi scheme for now.
But can you imagine, like 3 years ago, people were buying JPEGs for hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's lunacy. That's fucking ridiculous. And they were saying like, no, you don't understand. You can't just download the JPEG. It belongs to me. So what, bro?
I'll screenshot it. I got as well.
Yes, $100,000 you paid for this shit, and after 2-3 years, the valuation is what, 1%?
Yeah, it's insane.
That's insane. Do you think eventually crypto is going to be regulated as hell?
I think they'll try. I don't think they'll be able to fully, because what's going to happen is there's always going to be places in the world where it's going to be less regulated. And then what are all the people going to do with money? They're going to move to those places. Because like Dubai is a crypto hotbed, like massively. I know loads of people in crypto in Dubai who are huge. And the amount of them I know who are selling everything, like tens of millions of dollars of assets, putting it all into Bitcoin because they want freedom of their money and not to be controlled. I'll give an example. I bought a Ferrari 488 2 weeks ago and I had to move a load of money into my account, personal account in Dubai. Account got flagged. For like, why have you got all this money? I was like, it's my own fucking money, and it comes from different bank accounts with my name on it. Like, what do you think? And then things like that. I'm like, you can't even spend your own money, and then there's also like transaction limits on what you can transfer. Whereas if you look at like something like cryptocurrency, it's like pure financial freedom and commercialism to do whatever you want, and capitalism. Like, if I want to send $100 million to you right now, I can do. Like, if you want to send it to me, I can do. No one's going to ask any questions. The only downside with it, for the government's point of view, very difficult to tax, very difficult to control. What do governments like? Tax and control. Which is why, to some respects, I'm surprised the ETFs and things like this have been approved. But I think this has gone way too far now for it ever to really be regulated. All they're going to try and do is tax it where they can. But if any country tries to tax really heavily, what's going to happen is these people are just going to bounce, and somewhere like Dubai or somewhere like wherever will be like, cool, we're going to make Marbella in Spain a tax haven for crypto. Like, there's no crypto tax here. Everyone come here. And then you can have all these people moving here with hundreds of millions. Like, what's going to happen to the economy there? It's going to fucking skyrocket. And that's almost a little bit what's happening in Europe, because taxes are insane in Europe and only going to get worse. So why would anyone stay there if they have online businesses and they could live in another country where they're not going to get the hand cut off for a watch and it's safe?
Bro, but you know, the downside of this is the distinction between the super rich and super poor is getting bigger and bigger. The one that has thousands of Bitcoins and the ones who have only $1,000. Bro, that's not good for the society.
I would say in the 7 years that I've been running my own businesses, it's the window of opportunity is closing rapidly. And for anyone who's listening to this, you need to take the fucking jump right now, because in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, it's going to be a lot harder. And then if you look at the innovations of things like AI coming through, the second thing that's going to happen before 2030 is going to be mass unemployment, because people are getting wiped out into, I've already mentioned one of them, AI chatbot. I got rid of 4 or 5 people last month. There you go. That's one example. Like, we've just come to a conversation. And this is where people need to understand that everything is going this way. And basically the only thing that's eventually going to protect you, particularly if you're an online business, is a personal brand. You being known, because what do people want to buy from? Other people they know, like, and respect. And that's the only thing AI can't really take away, is who you are. And that's the most valuable thing you have.
Do you remember how easy it was like 5 years ago on Facebook or Instagram?
Bro, I used to post
organic.
Bro, I used to post a photo of me like jacked and shredded on the beach. I get like 150,000 views. And this is also why there's 2 things happening. So, one, the cost of paid advertising is going up, because all these platforms are trying to get more people to pay to play, basically. So your ability of skills to run paid ads has to increase. And number 2, that people also see this is happening. Some more people moving back who were just running Facebook ads to try and build a personal brand. So both of them are getting more competitive, which means that the most important thing you need to do is try and get market share and get a foothold really quickly in terms of reputation of who you are, and be really good at what you do, because that's the most unique thing you're going to have. And it's also, the earlier you learn the skills, the quicker it's going to compound for you.
But Charlie, if, for instance, if economy fails, it's gonna have failed
everyone,
2, 3, 5 years. Eventually, it's gonna happen.
At some point, there's going to be a big crash. Part of me feels it could be next year after the US elections, because I think the government here is trying to prop up. They won't let the economy fail when there's an election happen. Yeah, so they'll like print money, and then whoever comes in next, be it Trump or whoever, is going to be like, what the fuck have I got to deal with it?
So economy is not doing well right now. So I believe it's going to get worse and worse and worse eventually till it crashes, and then it's going to rebuild itself. Then we have all the stuff that we talked about before that. The UK, the US, Europe is failing big time. A lot of people are getting richer and richer. Other 99% of people are getting poorer and poorer and poorer. We saw it in the last 4 years, right? During the pandemic, all those companies, they went from 1 trillion like Apple to 3 trillions, or Microsoft, 3 trillions evaluation. That's crazy. So the distinction is getting bigger and bigger. That's when riot happens. At minimum, riot happens. Maximum is what? Civil war? That's what we're heading for?
I think there's potential for that to some degree. I actually watched a film interesting the other day about, I think it might be called Civil War or something, about the United States. I think it was like Texas and California against the rest of the world, the rest of the US or something. Do I think it would ever come to that? Probably not. But do I think that the US could maybe break up into separate states?
But that's crazy.
But if you look at it selfishly from different people's point of view, maybe Florida, for example, some of the other states, like, would they be better off on their own? Debatably, maybe. And it's the same thing in terms of the UK Brexit scenario, which was handled really badly. I voted for the UK to leave because I think that the UK is better on its own than in Europe. They just did a shit job in terms of actually exiting, and the government ever since has been like a bunch of morons. But I think there's a strong possibility that it could break up at some point if things continue. But I think the reality is, would there ever be a civil war in the US again? There's too much at stake. I think there could be uprisings, yes, but then the government here has so much actual military power, police power, that I think that's unlikely. I think you'd be more likely to, that's more of a European thing I think I could see happening, like France, Germany, UK.
But that scene in that movie that you've mentioned, Civil Wars, we're Americans.
Yeah.
What kind of American? Fuck, really? What kind of Americans? Like from the south?
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, I was an interesting question, right?
What kind of Americans?
Yeah. Like, where are you from? And then he shoots one of them because he didn't like where he's from.
And you're mentioning that maybe it's not going to get to civil war, but I want to say a week ago, Joe Biden said one thing, and the governor of Florida, DeSantis, said, we're not going to obey.
There's still a big divide, and I say this as a foreigner who just travels a lot, between the US, between the northern states and the southern. Like, just in terms of mindset and the way they think. And it's the same thing anywhere. It's a big country. The north of England is very different from the south of England for anyone who's ever been. It's, I think, normal, and I think trying to balance that out is a challenge for whoever's in charge. But that comes down to the skill of leadership, which I think at the moment Joe Biden's a bit of a joke in terms of how he's in charge in the first place. I have no idea. And I think that's fundamentally where the problems are coming from, because there's a lack of strong leadership.
But in my opinion, the best thing that ever happened in the U.S. in the past 50 years, I want to say, is people saw what a weak leader can do. So for 4 years, this is what happened: A, B, C, D, E, right? So right now it's election year. You want to continue this thing? Vote for the same guy. If you want to change, vote for another guy. That's the best thing that could happen. If in 2020 Trump was elected, that would be his last year. That's it. Second term. No one else would be there in the Republican Party. But Joe Biden won. Everyone saw what it's like. Russia, Ukraine, Israel, Iran, Palestine. The whole thing in the U.S. The gas went up from $1.50 for a gallon to $6 a gallon. 4 times.
What you just said is very interesting, because the single thing of the Russia-Ukraine war nearly fucked the entire global economy, because the costs of everything in the UK went through the roof because of everything that was being imported from Russia could no longer be imported, fuel costs, whatever.
And from Ukraine as well.
Yeah, and from Ukraine as well. And this is
Grains.
where the knock-on consequences of one decision on the other side of the world from one person who's completely incompetent and lacks leadership skills. People don't like Donald Trump, but he, from what I see and understand, has a pretty decent relationship with Vladimir Putin, which is probably pretty important when he's like the biggest
number
world
2 guy. Yeah.
Yeah, like you need to have a decent relationship with a person, whereas like Joe Biden clearly doesn't have that mutual respect. And I think for me, one of the reasons I like Donald Trump is the fact that he wasn't a career politician. He's actually done stuff in real life, so he actually can use a logical problem-solving brain and like look at the United States as an actual business, which people actually have to, rather than like the socialist perfect world of like we will dance around and this is all going to be okay. It's not going to be okay if someone doesn't deal with it. And I think that's where they need strong leadership for someone to come in.
The guy's from the streets. He knows what it's like to get respect and get respected. So that's all it is. I don't think that would be a war in Ukraine if Trump was in the office. That's for sure. I don't think that Palestine would do the thing that they did last year if Trump was in the Oval Office.
Why do you think that is? Because they wouldn't be allowed to get away with it?
Yeah, just because the way that Joe Biden said to Iran when Iran said maybe we will attack Israel, don't. That's all that he said. Don't. So they did. What now?
When then nothing happens.
Nothing happens. They don't respect him. That's it. Donald Trump was respected by all leaders. China, Russia, Iran. The guy took out number 2 guy in Iran in 2020. And nothing happened. Number 2 guy that was considered to be the president, whoever it is in Iran, he killed him, and he said he made jokes of him. Abu, he was like a dog. You saw that clip?
Yeah.
He was joking about it, and Iran did nothing.
And I think this is also where people need to understand. Not that you need to have a president who's slightly crazy, but you need to have someone who's willing, like they would question whether like Donald Trump would pull the trigger on something big. Yeah. Where Joe Biden, they're like, no way.
You
like,
have to have the cojones.
Yeah. Like if it comes to it, he'd be like, would he be willing to go to war with Russia, Donald Trump? Like if it fucking came to it, probably. Like not that anyone would ever want that. Joe Biden, not in a million fucking years, and the Russians know that as well. So like they can see, it's like if like boxing fights, when someone looks in someone's eyes, they know when they've fucking lost or they're weak, they're done. Yeah. It's the same thing in like a global stage.
The way Tyson fought, right?
Yeah, 100%.
A lot of opponents told that they lost the fight before the fight. They just look at his eyes and they realize I'm gonna get fucking knocked out in first round. That's it. So I don't think that Russia would happen. I believe that the guy was respected as hell, and I believe he's gonna come back in 2024. And I still believe that there is a chance for the Western world, because we've seen what can happen. We've seen the stabbing capital of the world. A lot of extremist Muslims are in charge right now in the UK. Okay, so in the next 4 years, people have to make their mind and realize that this can't be in the next 4 years. We have to be more cautious.
The problem we have in the UK is that if you ever say anything against that type of regime, you get called massive racist. So like I don't think it still goes. I'm so out of UK politics, but we used to have something called UKIP, and it's basically trying to get us out of Brexit, out of Europe, UK Independence Party, and like anything that's seen as like vaguely nationalist or like UK pride or whatever, you're just seen as white supremacist racists. Whereas the reality is like the UK was originally a white country where we had people like we just are, and so it's not a race thing. It's like looking after the people who are originally from that area, and it's no different than if you went to Dubai is a great example again. 89% of the population of Dubai are foreigners, expats. Yeah. And the people who are locals, the Emiratis, are like seen above foreigners. I have no issue with that at all. This isn't my country. I have come here. I really like it. I'm very respectful. It's an amazing place.
You respect
but I have nothing but respect for that. And I have no issue with them. Like, you're born here. This is your country. That's fine. So I don't understand why other countries can't have the same thing. Same thing if I, further down the line, I'd like to move to the US at some point, maybe in 10 years' time. I would have the same respect for people who were born American. And I also think a lot of people who are born American take it for massive granted, which is why both of us as foreigners both like it here, because you have everything in the United States at your disposal and no excuses.
Yeah.
And people don't understand that, and they take it for massive granted.
So the worst thing that they did, I want to say, is they made American-born Americans hate the country. It's like not me, not you, not Arabs, not guys from Africa, Asia, China, somewhere else that hate America. The whole country of America hate America. If you take your flag, you're like white supremacist, you're a bigot, the sex, all that stuff, racist, just by carrying the American flag. That's the worst thing that you can do.
So this just reminded me of something. Something that really shocked me when I first spending a lot of time in the US is the amount of American flags you see everywhere.
Yeah.
If you go to the UK, you'll never see a British flag. Because if you have a British flag, you're seen as a racist, like supremacist. Like the only time you might see a British flag is on Buckingham Palace, maybe, and like Windsor Castle. Like outside of that, I don't even know if they're at the airports when you arrive. Like,
so brother, we traveled to Spain in 2021 in summer, right? We said that's it. We're done with Lithuania, all that stuff, with the COVID stuff, and for 2 years we've been living there. After 1 year, we came to Lithuania to visit Lithuania, our loved ones, for 2 weeks. So the whole thing in Ukraine started 2022 February. We went in 2022 September. The amount of Ukrainian flags we saw in Lithuania, it was 10 times more than Lithuanian flags. We have our parliament is called Seimas. In our own parliament, there is a Ukrainian flag. There is not a thing. There isn't such a thing in Spain. There isn't such a thing in the UK. But Lithuania is all about Ukraine.
It's interesting mentioning Spain. So I said to you earlier, my family live there. I'm spending 3 months there this summer. That they're an incredibly proud nation.
Yeah,
like Spanish flags everywhere. You also know, I don't know if you felt this when you were in Marbella. Like you go to a bar in Spain and you turn up first, and the Spanish person turns up. They'll serve the Spanish person first. It's just the way they are. They're maybe slightly rude, but they have a huge amount of national pride in terms of their country, and their flags everywhere, and they really represent that. And I think it's just interesting how Lithuania, UK, a lot of the northern countries have just completely lost the plot.
So the number one reason why we left Spain is because, well, two reasons. Number one, it's a socialist country.
Yeah.
And number two is because we realized in 2 years we're not gonna assimilate. We'll never be a Spaniard.
Yeah.
Like never.
Well, they will see you as a foreigner.
Yeah. They will never invite you to a party because they have friends from the school, high school, kindergarten, their families. The families are big. They gather in the parties, and you will never get invited. So the situation where I just live in some kind of a area where only Lithuanians or Russians because I'm a Russian speaking guy. So living in that area for the rest of my life was not good for me. So that's why we left. We will never assimilate there.
I also think it's one of the beautiful things about the United States, though. Like, it's a land of like immigrants, and you can like, it was built immigrants from Europe or wherever. Like, you can come here and integrate into society, and like, it's cool that you're from Lithuania, I'm from the UK, people from wherever, and you can eventually become American and you get integrated, and people are actually interested. Like, as soon as I talk and someone hears my accent, like, oh, where are you from? I live in Dubai. Like, oh, we're like people get really interested in that. Whereas in a lot of other places, they almost like push you away for a foreigner.
And the reason number one why a lot of people just like you, just like me, and others come to the U.S. is because land of free, big country, a lot of states that you can find differences and similarities between them, but one currency, one language. For instance, California is one, Florida is another. Both are southern states. You can go to Oregon. No, don't go to Oregon. It's fucked up. You can go to New York. You can go to Illinois. All those states. And the reason is why you came here is because you love that America was about for 200 years. Land of the free, home of the brave, huge economy, people welcome you and you can assimilate and you can be one of the Americans in, I want to say, 10 years, you can get even a passport. But in that period of 10 years, you're not going to feel like a foreigner. That's why people come here. Let's get back to business. So once you get a lead, you almost prompt for an email, right?
We always try and get an email and phone number. So one of the things we do in our own businesses, and this is a bit old school, Grant Cardone was like this, is we call everyone who opts in for free stuff. Because like as much as we talk about AI is taking over the world and like automation, people actually really like to speak to people still. And the reality is if you look at what happened with COVID, everyone went to work from home, like big companies. Then what happened? They've all gone back to their offices because people actually prefer to work around other people.
Or they went bankrupt.
Yeah, or they went bankrupt, or both. And then the reality is that I think for most people is that if you actually do something that other people aren't do, like calling people up, that works phenomenally well. In our own business, we do about 2,000 outbound phone calls a day to people coming through into our ecosystem or old people, and you basically build a pipeline that you can then try and sell to.
And what's the price of the product that you sell?
We've got 3 different offers. Our main offer is $11,500 for 90 days. And we have some cheaper ones at like $700 monthly to like $3K.
And you still call?
Yeah.
For $700 a month?
Yeah.
A month or?
Month, yeah.
One time. Okay, I gotcha. So once you get an email, how many emails do you send to a potential client?
They get emailed every single day. Every day. Our entire email list gets every day.
Every single day?
Every single day.
And at what point do you start selling?
Pretty much from just day one. So when someone comes into our sequence, if someone opts into a course, they will basically the first week we will try and push them for a sales call, like really direct messaging, because that's when people are going to be the warmest. And after that, it just goes into more like basically a daily broadcast email, which will be like value or sending them to podcasts or other stuff just to keep them in the ecosystem. And the most important thing you can actually use email for is omnipresence. Because if I'm emailing you every single day and I'm turning up in your inbox and you're seeing Facebook ads from me every day and I'm turning up on social, like I'm fucking all over you.
This is fucking Charlie.
Yeah, like I went to an event, this is why I'm in California, and even someone's like, since I fucking met you, I can't stop seeing your Facebook, your ads. And I was like, bro, you're never going to get rid of me. I'm going to follow you.
Just buy the stuff.
Just buy something and you get out the ad. And but this is basically the game. It's like omnipresence. It's to like be everywhere at all times, because you want to, like I said earlier, best known beats best. So if you're the best known and you're in front of a person all the time, who are they going to think about when they want to build an online business? Me. And that's the goal, so that I'm always in front of people, but also leading with value so that they feel reciprocity and goodwill to me that, cool, that Charlie guy's really nice. The stuff I've seen is really helpful. He comes across really well. He clearly knows what he's doing. I need to build this business. I should probably speak to him.
And in regards to content creation, so if we're in the fitness industry, how much should I narrow down my content to fitness industry? 90% of fitness posts, videos, reels?
Yes. So I would probably say 75%. I think one of the problems you're seeing now in particular, I really don't like the way content's gone in terms of reels and short form videos. My feeling of what will happen is it's going to go back to like carousel posts and images more, particularly on Instagram, which is slowly happening, because you can story tell more in a caption with those things. Because the most important thing is, like what I said earlier, people buy from people. What happens a lot on social media now, people are making the same bullshit as everyone else, but they're not actually telling their story or their journey. And the most important thing you need to do is, a really good book anyone should read is called Expert Secrets by Russell Brunson. He talks about the attractive character framework. And basically you want to tell the story of who you are in terms of like where you've come from, what inspired you to do this journey, what have you overcome, who are the villains you've beaten, who is it you help now, who have you become at the end. And you tell that story to buy people into you, because they'll listen to be like, shit, I had that same problem Charlie did. I've struggled with this. I struggled with this. This is how he's overcome it. And they'll see
your personality.
Yeah, and you showing some vulnerability actually gets people to lean into you, because like, holy shit, that's really, really interesting. I was listening to a podcast on the way here and someone was talking about getting mugged on a bus. And I was like, and he was a famous guy. I was like, that's really interesting. Like, because when you see someone's vulnerability who's famous, you're like, you look at them a different perspective and it almost humanizes them more.
Yeah.
But that also endears you more to them. So like a huge part of your content has to be talking about like who you are, this is who I am, this is what my mission is.
How much of a vulnerability I can show? Because for instance, we have an online business with my wife as well. So obviously we're thought leaders, influencers in Lithuania, and etc. But we're also human beings. I feel depressed once a week. I feel like doing nothing. My wife does the same thing. Should we show that? Should we?
100%. Because what you want to do is you create common ground. So I would show, here's the problem I've had, and here's how I've overcome it. I'll give you a great example. My Instagram account with 500,000 followers got. This is a great story. This is showing vulnerability as well, right? So I was flying to the Maldives, first world problem, like 10 days ago. And like 1 a.m. on the way to the airport, I opened my phone, my Instagram account got disabled. I was like, yes, relaxing holiday, here we come. And long story short, I got the account back and I knew it would. But I basically filmed on my YouTube channel, like vlogging whilst I was away, like this is what's happened, this is what I'm going to do, this is really shit, this is how I'm overcoming it, this is my like strategic plan of in case I don't get the account back. And at the end of the video I got the account back and I jumped in the pool and it was all cool. But that's an example in terms of like showing shit going wrong and using that as an example. Okay, like this happens to everyone, and in particular like the clients I work with, anything bad that can happen with online business has happened to me. So like Stripe, I lost a Stripe account with $250,000 of revenue. I lost a year. I had my Instagram account shut down now twice. I've had multiple other Instagram accounts shut down. I've had my Facebook ad account disabled. Pretty much anything that can be a problem has probably happened to me multiple times. And at some point you just get used to it of like, you go from, you're either gonna have a problem or crisis at any moment. And when like things are really good, I'm always just like waiting, like when's the next black swan problem, right? And the more you story tell about those things, the more people are going to buy into you. And I do a lot of live events in our business now. We have a big one in Marbella at the end of June. And I always pre-frame those now. And a big skill I learned in terms of speaking in public was the problems I've overcome at the start, because it humanizes you. Because if someone's public speaking, they see you on stage, they see you like, oh, this person's got all this shit together. I haven't always. Like I posted a photo of me when I was like 19, like retarded, and there's people in the room there, like literally, and there's people in the room there who were like 19 making $40,000 a month. And I'm like, this was me then, this is you then, like now, where are you going to be?
You're now retarded.
Yeah, like, do you know what I mean?
So that's like kind of a Gary Vee style.
Yeah, 100%. Because that's the most, like, people buy from people because people buy the stories behind the people.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
But what if the fuck up story wouldn't have a happy ending?
Well, then just
would you share it?
Yeah, I still share it. I talk a lot about my previous divorce and how that went bad. Like, not bad. It didn't, like, I basically ended up getting divorced because I wanted to move to Dubai and my partner didn't want to go, who I'd been in a 14-year relationship with, and I had to make
14.
I had to make a decision that like I'm burning the fucking boat, so I'm all in. Like, I gave her the option: you can come with me, or you can't, but I'm going. She decided to stay, I decided to go. And that for me was a big commitment in myself in terms of like, well, you're going fucking all in, or you're like, because you've sacrificed a lot to do this. And like a true story of me showing some vulnerability. I think as a man, you always seek praise and approval from your father. The only time my dad really praised me was maybe like a year ago. He said to me, it's amazing what you've achieved, but it's cost you a lot.
For the first time in your life.
Yeah. And I was like, fuck. And I was like, that was like a praise, but then a bit of a stab at the same time. I was like, that's interesting. And it's things like that. That's like true story of me, like humanizing myself, that people see like what happened for you to get here, but they don't see like the pain and the fucking problems and the shit you've had to do to get to that point.
You were the only child in your family?
I've got a brother.
So he wasn't even praised as well, just like you did?
This is what's funny. He is praised, but and I don't mean this in an arrogant fashion, but his success is like nowhere near the level of mine, and not in an arrogant fashion, but he has like essentially a job, he does well, he has a nice lifestyle, but I feel they praise him more than me, which is probably what pushed me more to be like,
because he was stable job.
Yeah, stable, like safe society, doesn't really cause any problems. Whereas like I'm the black sheep who, like, my parents smoke and drink, so does my brother. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I'm super healthy, all I want to do is work out, work on my business and travel. I'm here, there, everywhere doing all this crazy shit. Whereas like they think I'm like insane. Whereas like for me, I'm not insane, I just have like an insane drive of almost like a nuclear reactor in me that just doesn't want to stop, because I love what I do so much. So like it's not work for me. My work is play, and it becomes the thing that fulfills me the most. Not because I'm seeking more external validation or money or whatever it is. It's like the person who I become in that process is what I love so much, which is why I got into fitness and loved that so much, because I could see how much I could change myself. And business is the most fucked up, weird way of self-development to make yourself the greatest version of yourself, because you go through so many challenges and you have to change so much as a person because of the demands on you, depending on where the business is going to.
It not all depends on you. Market, all that stuff. You get banned, for instance. You run the ads, they're perfect. Banned.
Well, so for example, my Instagram account got disabled, all my ads got shut off at the same time. So like the cataclysmic effect happens, and this is where the day I was an estate agent, 25th of February 2019 is the day I quit my job. I was earning $100,000 a year. I was like, fuck this, I'm out. And I walked out of my job because if you don't walk out, you basically have to work a notice period for half pay. I'm not going to do that. And I remember just like going in one day I got paid, took all my shit, left. And I went home, and I remember my boss calling me up at the time, who was like area manager, being like, you have to come back. And I was like, no, I don't. And it suddenly, I was like, it clicked. I was like, fuck, I never have to listen to anyone ever again. I can do whatever I want. But I have to just back myself and work really, really hard. And like, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. Yeah. Like, if I don't fucking do this, I'm going back there.
You either succeed or you fail hard.
Yeah. But that's the motivation, because you like, the biggest mistake I see a lot of people is like, oh, they want to make an online business. They like dabbling. Oh, I want to go and get in shape. They're like, oh, I might go to the gym once a week. It's like, you have to really fucking commit, because the world we live in is like player versus player, right? Like if you have a fitness business and I have a fitness business, we're battling against each other to get clients.
Yeah.
It is what it is. But most people don't see the brutal reality of how it is. And that's almost like, if you look at some of the politics we're talking about, that's the way the world is designed, but the West doesn't want to see that. They want everyone to fucking sit around and sing Kumbaya, whereas like, we're actually in a competitive landscape. Countries are competing for people as well as money. Yeah. So I think if you've got the most talented people in your country, maybe someone like Dubai, because the whole of Europe's moving there, is that country going to be more successful than somewhere like Europe, the UK, where all of these people are leaving?
And other people are coming.
Who aren't
not the best educated.
Who aren't talented and don't have resources.
Did you feel some kind of relief when your dad recognized your achievement?
Yes, it really shocked me at the time though. And a friend of mine whose parents passed away actually told me in a podcast the other week to actually call my parents and ask them, are they proud of me? Which is probably something like you don't want to ask something like that. You want them to tell you, because otherwise like you put them on the fucking spot.
But you've been waiting for 30 years.
Yeah. You're waiting for 30 years and it's like you've done millions of dollars of sales. You've done this other shit. I've been Forbes and all types of stuff. It's like, I think at that point, I've just decided that that's just the way my parents are. And I think that's a difficult thing to maybe accept, but it's also something I take as two ways. One, when I have children, I know how I'm going to parent. And two is that if maybe they weren't like that, I wouldn't be who I am, because it gave me the fucking chip on my shoulder to be like, fuck you, I'm going to do my own thing at 18 and I'm going to like watch this. And if you don't have that drive and maybe like that pain, you wouldn't be in the position you're in.
And there's old school, super conservative?
Yeah, 100%. Like, I'll give you an example. So when I first started getting into fitness stuff, my mum would take the piss out of me for like wearing pink swimming shorts, or like shaving my legs, or doing like photo shoots and shit like this. And then like later I made all this money and all my success was because I did that thing. And and because she gave me all that flack, and it was really fucking hurtful at the time, right? Because your parents say stuff like that to you, like fuck, like.
But hold on, bro. The best advice if you want to get successful, just shave your head, legs.
Yeah. There you go. And it's like, that is, I think, often what destroys most people, is because the people who are the closest to you are the ones that are holding you back the most. And I think that's a hard reality, and they're trying to do it from a place of love, but they haven't achieved what you want to achieve, nor do they live in a society anything like what it was like years ago. Like, they didn't have social media in fucking 50s, 60s. They didn't even have the internet.
Yeah.
Like, we can now fucking do virtual reality and live call each other on the other side of the planet.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on parenting your own kids when you get them?
So it's something I'm very, very excited for, and the big thing I'm excited for is to like make a better version of myself. So one thing is I definitely would not do is put them into public education. I'd have them homeschooled, because I don't want, like, if you look at teachers, do teachers generally want to have the job as a teacher? Probably not. So like people
maybe
who teach,
1% of them.
Yeah, so like people teaching and generally failed in life, and then they're teaching your kids. What I would probably do is, when it comes to like primary school or when they're younger, I would probably just go to all the schools, try and find the best teacher I can. I'd be like, how much you earn a year? And then like $60,000, cool. I'll pay you 120. You now just work for me and you teach my kid. You do 4 or 5 hours a day, teach him maths, English, all this other stuff. When he got to like old enough, like 12 or something, I would then start to teach him marketing, sales, business stuff myself, and almost just get him to like work alongside me so he would learn. And then in terms of like social integration, I love sports and very competitive. I would really just push him into playing like every sport under the sun. Like, which ones do you like? Do you want to do American football? You want to do soccer? You want to do boxing? Like, cool. Let's just go like do different sports every day, different team sports. You then understand competition. You understand interaction. You understand hard work, discipline, what it takes to win. For me, that's how you create a really great child, rather than having them in a cesspool of society, which is being taught by people who actually have never achieved greatness or achieved great things. I think that's where you see
basically losers.
Essentially, because not there's anything wrong with being a teacher, but I would say it's a very noble passion, but they get treated like shit for their career, and it's not something that I think necessarily. I'll give it a better example. I remember going to learning business studies at school at my A-levels, and I look back now and I'm like, why the fuck was this dude teaching us? Like, he had no business, he's never done anything. Like, theory and practice is two different things. And it's the same thing as like, you see a personal trainer who's not in good shape, you're like,
why don't you implement it?
You clearly don't know what you're doing here, right? Because I can see. And the same thing as taking financial advice from someone who's broke. So the fundamental thing is, if you wanted to have a child who you want to be a rock star and you want to become the greatest version they could be, if you have them learn from people who are really like talented and skilled, they're probably going to be that. And a lot of that's the mindset, because it's like what they see, what they're adherent to a young age. And I was fortunate, credit to my parents, that my dad was maybe like upper middle class. He had some very wealthy friends who I spent some time with who had a huge influence on me. And I remember one of the things, one of the guys said to me, who had a huge amount of property and land investments, he said, expensive today, cheap tomorrow. It's like, I'm big into like buying real estate. And I'll give an example. I bought some real estate in Dubai in 2021, and it doubled in price in like 3-4 years. And at the time, it was a load of money. I was like, I asked my dad. He was like, so I'm going to buy this in Dubai. Do you think I should do it? He's like, no, don't buy it. So I just did it anyway. and then it doubled in price. And that's where I think that there's a lot that you can learn. I think as a man, I think every man's, and I can see you smiling in this because you're a father, that the thing you want to do is to try and help your child have a better upbringing than you do and become a better version of yourself.
That's for sure. We have to do this. So what I meant by saying losers, I meant that influencers, some teachers, those liberals that haven't achieved a single thing in life. They're obese, they're not healthy physically, mentally. Then they give advice to the youngsters, like, this is how you should live. If you're a boy, you can be a boy. If you're a girl, you can be a girl. So the new thing, I don't know whether you heard this or not, you can change your gender according to the seasons. In spring, you're a boy. In the fall, you're a girl, and all that stuff.
And I think this is just where the world's lost the fucking plot in terms of like, I remember I got a gym membership at I don't know, Anytime Fitness or something here. And it was like gender options. It was like male, female, non-binary, other, something else. I was like, the fuck is this? Like,
let me check my cojones.
Got him. How do I feel today? Like, and I think this is where everyone's just losing their minds, and like the people who talk against this are seen as like
bigots, sexist,
oppressive. I was like, it is what it is. Like, I'm born a man, you're born a man. I don't suddenly want to be like, oh, I feel like being a woman now. Like, I just don't understand how that's even possible.
You know why this is all the bullshit? Because when you do your, for instance, when you do your change your passport when you buy plane tickets, there are only two genders, brother. You're a male or female. They don't give a shit about your feelings. How do you feel right now? A cat, a dog, a coyote, or someone else. You're either a male or female because they have to know who's on the plane or whose passport is this. There's only two options, male or female in the passport, right?
And I'll give you another example of that I quite like is categorizing society. And is that when you go on a plane, part of society goes right, part of it goes left. And that's probably the biggest segregation of classes you're ever going to see in the world, is like first class, business class, economy. And I think that's interesting in terms of when you see the different types of people in different classes. And even like when I said I went to Universal Studios yesterday, like I was generally fucking gobsmacked because like I spend my time around entrepreneurs, I go to the gym, I eat at healthy places. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with America? I was like...
And that's not the worst place in LA, brother. Universal Studios is Burbank. That's a good area.
I literally was like, my girlfriend was just like mortified. I was like, it's unreal. And this is where people have to take, like, where is this country going? Where is society going? Because if you can't, look, if you I wouldn't employ anyone who's really overweight. Because I just wouldn't. Because you clearly lack discipline. You clearly can't be consistent with what you're doing. You're just a very weak individual. Because if you can't look after yourself first and foremost, how could you look after anything in my business? Yet we've got 90% of society now like this, who are just stuck on the grapevine of whatever the food like industry is pushing out to them, and then also getting stuck into pharmaceutical drugs then to try and like keep them alive because they become diabetic and they're super obese and all this other bullshit.
Bro, the agenda says that the biggest problem on the earth right now is climate change, right? But that's what they did synthetically because a lot of people are obese right now. What that means? That means that they eat like 3 to 4 times more than I do. They eat a lot of meat, a lot of chips, potato stuff, all that stuff. They're just consuming more. And all their food is wrapped in a plastic. So they fucked this system up.
And I think there's going to have to be a real hard change for anything to happen with this. And part of me can't even see how this is even reversible at this point. And it's the same as you talk about the wealth gap of the rich and then the poor. It's getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it will continue to do so. The same things in terms of like the health gap.
Either you're jacked.
You're either jacked, you're in great shape, or you're fucking way out of shape.
Yeah.
Because it's actually easier than ever to be in really good shape because you can get great food delivered to you pre-cooked. There's millions of gyms that are affordable. I can't believe how cheap the gyms are in the US. No one has any excuse.
$20 a month.
Bro, I went to like 24-hour fitness wherever it is, and I was like, yeah, I need to buy a week pass. How much? And I was like, $25. I was like, a week? In Dubai, it's like $40 a day.
So if you sign a contract, it's like $25 a month.
So like you have all the facilities in the world. You have like all the supplements. You have all the like best food. I would say best food to some degree in terms of like it can be provided. I think American food's not great in terms of quality here. That's why you can't sell it to Europe. But you have the biggest obesity problem ever.
Yeah. You've got the vitamin D, natural vitamin D. The testosterone?
Yeah. You don't have that in UK.
Yeah. Business. So if you send an email right away with a sale, how much do you send emails before you delete the contact? For instance, you sell like 100 emails, then you...
We never delete them. We never delete them unless they don't engage after, I think it's 60 days. So if they don't open an email after 60 days, you pull them off our list.
Oh, then
we use a system called Active Campaign that has automations that will basically run people through basically like a tagging system if they open and close open emails. If they're not opening emails, then we just take them off eventually.
Active Campaign, I want to say, is the most expensive system there is.
I think we maybe pay $300-400 a month for it. It depends on how many users you had. We were paying a lot more at one point because we had like 110,000 people on the list, and it was like a lot of it wasn't good quality, so we just got rid of them. Yeah. But what you can do with email is frightening. In particular, like even you look at things like cold email now. So like there's a lot of email automation tools you can do to cold email people and scraping email data. There's a lot that can be done with that.
How often do you, for the same product, how often do you change the email sequence?
Depends how much traffic you have running through it. I'd probably look to optimize that every 60 to 90 days. But I think it depends. If you're running paid ads into something, there's a lot of volume, then you can see. But if you're getting like 10 people a week go through an automation, it's not really enough volume to be able to see like what the difference is. Our general like intro sequences are pretty simple and pretty like on point. It's more than after that we test different things. So for example, we speak about the election, so you could put an email out about Trump v Biden, like who's going to win and why, and like if you want and try and like story tell about like things that are going on in the world, because then it's more relevant to specific things. So what I'd recommend everyone does is you have an opt-in email automation at the start. You can use Active Campaign, MailChimp, Close.io, whatever you want. And then just like a daily broadcast email list that goes out, and you can schedule those in advance. So we have an email copywriter, and he will write a week's worth of emails and just schedule them to go out.
How big are the emails? One page?
Yeah, generally one page. Some of them, we use something called a spear email sometimes, which is basically like, hey Charlie, and then one line, basically trying to get them to reply. And I'll give you guys a gold gem. If you want the best email subject line with the highest response rate, if you just put question mark, nothing. Because people are like, what the fuck is this? So they click on it and then open the email. So that's the highest.
Subject?
Yeah, you know, like subject line in an email?
Yeah.
If you literally just
question mark?
Just put a question mark. Because people open it. And half the battle of emails get them to open the email. Because you want curiosity.
Yeah.
So that works really, really well.
That's nice. Let's go to the customers. So fitness industry. Did you figure out what do people actually want, the customers? What do customers actually want? Do they want the changes for real, for instance, to get rid of 50 pounds or something? Or do they just want a better looking in the mirror or appreciation in the public?
I think the biggest thing every single person wants is confidence in themselves and how they feel.
So that's what you sell?
That's not what we specifically sell, but I would say as a broad statement, that's what everyone wants. And what we focus on selling our own fitness business is generally 30 to 50-year-old male, female fat loss body composition change. So essentially like getting you in great shape, getting you to feel good, getting you to look good, getting you to have good energy, you feel stronger, and just basically being the best version of yourself physically, because there's no fucking way that if you don't become better physically in terms of the way you feel, the way you look, you become more confident, you then become successful in other areas of life. Because people will also treat you differently. So even, for example, I was at a business event last week. I'm the only real guy from a big fitness background. Like, I stick out like a sore thumb straight away. So people naturally gravitate to you because they see you as a
like a sore thumb?
Yeah, like because you English expression, you're seen as a position of authority because you're a big muscular guy. Like people are like driven to you because your body also has a lot of statement about you, who you are. If someone's really out of shape and overweight, I'm like, well, this guy's got no fucking discipline, hard work or commitment. Whereas if you look at someone like, okay, he's in good shape, he's like clearly has these certain character traits. And if you look at business and fitness and being an entrepreneur, they're the same things. Like you be consistent, you turn up all the time, hard work, delayed gratification, like it's the same principles, but it's just different vehicles. And that's why for anyone who wants to be successful in their business, you being physically fit and the best version of yourself is also going to help you in terms of building a better business. Because also the mental side of things, we all have shitty days. If you wake up and you're in a bad mood, the best way to change your physical state is physical exercise. Like you go sprinting, you go running, like lift weights. Like I was in a bad mood maybe 2 days ago, and I like when it worked out, I was like, I feel fucking great now. The thing that was irritating me wasn't even a big problem, but just pissed me off.
How many years did you work out?
15, 16 years maybe.
Have you ever had a bad workout?
Yeah, loads, like all the time. The only bad workout's the one you don't go, they say. But I would say, I would caveat that with like, it doesn't have to be a weight training workout. Like if your body's battered and you feel really rough, like go for a walk. Just do something. And a lot of the times I'd say the biggest mistake people make is thinking that they have to go and do weight training, have to go and do this. Like if you don't feel good that day, just do something active. And like for doing that, you'll feel better for yourself. And also you won't feel that guilt that you're breaking the promises you make to yourself, which is when people lose confidence. Because like, yeah, I'm going to work out every day in May. And then they're like, day 3 goes by and they don't do it. And then they just like implode and then they end up eating loads of shit food. And it's just like a roller coaster.
Yeah. That's like January's membership gym memberships.
And here's something I like to think about a lot. And it applies to fitness and applies to business is like the success loop in terms of you actually being successful and confidence. So like you get a big success, you then get confident. You get more confidence, you get a bit more success. And it just spins and spins and spins and spins. But the problem is most people don't do anything long enough to get any success or any confidence, which is why they never get anywhere.
Yeah, so I always say to my clients the same thing, just like you mentioned, that the first thing you want to do if you want to succeed in life, just start with getting in shape. That's it. Because you can feel it that it is possible for you to do with your own hands, with your own mind. You just show up 2, 3, 4 times a week. You show up, you eat well. In a month, 2, 3, 4 months, you're going to see the results. Once you implement that the same tactic to other area of life, you have much more chances of succeeding over there.
100%. I think the beauty of fitness is it's all on you. Like no matter how much money you have, you got to do the workout, you got to eat the food. So like people know directly, like you look at someone like, yeah, he's really overweight, like he fucked that up, like there's no excuse. But also you think about that, I think about this a lot recently. How many billionaires do you see who are really overweight?
Bill Gates.
Is he that overweight though?
He's
little
like
bit, okay.
pregnant.
But like generally, it's very, very few.
Yeah.
But not like the Universal Studios, like £400, right?
Jeff Bezos.
Yeah.
Oh, he's jacked.
Yeah, bro.
Like jacked. Not just working out. He's fucking jacked. He looks, whoa, like 1%. How do you narrow down the target audience?
I think one of the biggest mistakes people make with, say, something like a fitness business is they try and niche too quickly. And I'll give an example. Say I'm going to try and target vegan mums in Newport Beach in California, or like if you've got a following of like a couple of thousand, how many, and you're not from Newport Beach, how many vegan mums are actually going to be following you? And then also if you look at the percentage of people who actually see your content from the algorithm, it's going to be very small. So what I would suggest to everyone is you start broad, so like male, female, fat loss, 30 plus or whatever age demographic is, and you'll find people will start to gravitate to you from certain niches, and then that's probably your niche. The second thing I would say is I always try and think about trying to help the younger version of myself. So like from our business thing, I like 7-figure scaling systems, I really focus in terms of what the problems I had 4 to 5 years ago, how would I help the younger version of myself then? Same when I was overweight, when I was in my teens, like what were the things I struggled with in terms of eating? Okay, cool. Like this is what I need to talk about. And if you think about trying to help the younger version of you and teach the problems you've overcame, that's then a very congruent way to build your business because you're building it on what I said earlier, your story.
But brother, you had no money at that time.
What, when I was a teenager?
Yeah.
But then it's not
You
about...
wouldn't be able to pay $600-700.
Yeah, but I'm not trying to help those people, but like use the stories that I learned from that to then teach.
I got you.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like I would never try and target young people. That's a very bad idea, which is why I said earlier, I generally recommend everyone has to be like 30 plus.
Minimum.
Because generally the older you are, the more money you have.
Facebook ads or Google ads?
Facebook ads.
Google ads, do you use them?
I have a little bit in the past, but Facebook ads is way easier to target, and you tend to have more I don't know the last time I bought anything on Google ads. I don't know if I ever have done. Have you bought anything on Google ads?
No, never.
There you go.
They're too expensive.
I bought stuff on Facebook ads, but yeah.
What about percentage-wise? Facebook and Instagram, 50-50?
For fitness, I think it depends on your demographic. I would say if you're more female-based, I'd go maybe look at more Facebook. If you're more
females,
yeah. If you're more male demographic, I'd go more Instagram. And if you're male executives, I'd look at LinkedIn. LinkedIn, we really crush it with, and you can sell a lot higher price programs on there because the average user has more financial capability. And you can also specifically target the type of person who, say, is a CEO, CFO of a company who has a big salary. You can specifically target those people on the job title, which you can't on any other platform.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. What about, did you figure out that women pay more for instance, self-development or fitness programs, etc., or males do?
If you look at human psychology, this is very interesting. So men buy with logic, women buy with emotion. So women are easier to sell in terms of, particularly from cold traffic, but women tend to have less financial capability compared to men. So,
sexist.
But it's just true, right?
Label.
We're also sexist. There's more women go to university and college than men now.
Sexist. You hate men.
Yeah, but but like the reality is that men have more affordability generally, so they tend to be able to sell higher price programs. But I would say women are easier to sell, and they also tend to stay on the program longer because women tend to like accountability more. Women are also more likely to raise their hand and ask for help, where men are more like, fuck it, I'll figure it out myself for the next 20 years. I might get it to work eventually, which is not a good strategy for anyone listening to this. So generally, I say the women's market is the biggest in fitness because women are so much more likely to want to invest in themselves to get someone to solve the problem because they tend to feel more emotional pain than men do, whereas men tend to just suck it up and suffer in silence.
Yeah.
The biggest mistake people make is they sell on benefits and features. What's the benefit of the program? We use this app, we use this app, we use this app. No one gives a shit. What's their base emotional human need? So if you had a woman who's 35, who's single, who comes onto a sales call to buy a fitness program, what does she, provided she's not lesbian, what does she probably want? To find a partner and have a family. So what do you think you should talk to her about? Getting in shape to find a partner to have a family.
You run ads like this.
It's difficult to target on that specifically, but yeah.
Yeah, you can't target whether she's married or not on Facebook. You can't. Okay, I got it. Video or photo ads?
I would have said video before, but I would say in the last 3 months I've noticed graphic ads are performing much better. And again, if people go on Facebook ad library, if you can look at Charlie Johnson Fitness, you can see all of our ads. But the big thing that I see is you notice a lot of the bigger ad accounts start to run a lot more graphic ads. They're also easier to make into test because we can produce them much faster than like video ads.
But you mean graphics, photos?
Yeah, like
or graphics. True graphics.
It can be like a photo and a graphic. So it'll be like, say there's a photo of me with like text and like other stuff put on it or whatever it might be. Like we've got some that like might be like a collage of images, say for example, with the free course we have, which show like mobile phone with lead generation, like an iPad with Facebook ads, whatever, like a collage of images.
I heard the story, maybe that's just a myth, that Facebook doesn't like when there is a photo and a lot of text on it.
Yes, you shouldn't have too much text on the screen.
I got it.
They actually will ban it. It will reject the ad if there's too much text.
Best ads, for instance, testimonials and results, what?
The best ads would be, so there's two types of marketing you can do in terms of ads, would be intent-based and non-intent. So intent is like, I'm looking for 5 guys in Newport Beach who want to drop £10 before the summer. DM me £10 to find out how it can help you. Like that's a very specific, like you want to lose in shape, message me, this is an ad. A non-intent ad would be something like sending out, like you have the same graphic of like, want our free guide in terms of how to drop body fat this summer, hit the link below, whatever. And you basically get them to a free ad. So like a free guide, like that's not directly trying to sell them anything where the other ones are. So I say you need to do 2 things. You need to have direct intent-based ads to cold traffic, which is cold traffic is people who don't already know you. That's the only traffic you can scale. I'd focus on that. And then also the non-intent ones, so like free lead magnets. And then where a lot of the money is made is you then have like a retargeting ad that then sweeps people up who've then hit your profile off the cold ads. So you want to be putting about like 80% of your budget towards cold ads, 20% to retarget. And the retarget ads will basically sweep up anyone who's clicked the profile but not signed up. And there'll be like video reviews of clients, client results, and an intent-based messaging or marketing.
Would you run those 2 ads simultaneously?
Yes, all of it the same.
But you compete with yourself because that's an auction.
Not in terms of the retarget ones, no, because the cold base is going to pull new people in, and then the retarget.
Also cold and then retarget. Okay, so what about the video length of the ad? Up to a minute?
35 to 45 seconds. I would actually say I would try some shorter, like 15 seconds of story ads.
With titles?
Yeah, it work really, really well. But you just got to keep it very quick and snappy. And I'll give a tip for anyone is that if you're recording video ads, try and get the camera angle to change every 2-3 seconds. You watch Kardashians, the camera angle changes every 3 seconds. They're trying to keep people engaged. So like what I would do is if I'm scripting videos, I would literally be like, here's 3 secrets to lose body fat. And then like the camera will keep recording, but we'll move the angle. So it's like constantly, and it would just edit it obviously. It keeps the user engaged. It constantly looks like it's moving.
That's ADHD stuff.
But that's what human society wants because we've got the attention span of a goldfish. Otherwise they'll scroll on.
You've mentioned that you can run ads and convert them into a ManyChat, or you can go to click to buy. What's better?
Depends on the price point.
That's, for instance, if that's intentional ad.
If it's over $1,000, then it has to go to a call, in my opinion, because you'll struggle to convert many on the click and buy under that price point.
If it's $100,
click and buy.
To the website.
Straight to like a funnel, saying something like ClickFunnels or Go High Level, and then click and buy through that.
And when would you use ManyChat?
You could use ManyChat to send them direct to the funnel, but I would probably not use ManyChat. I would just do the ad direct to the funnel. So like the link on the ad sends them directly into the funnel, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's difficult when you don't actually value your time and you also don't have the ability to charge higher prices. Why most people struggle is they try and sell too cheap at programs, and you actually need to try and push up to higher price points because like generally, if we look at LinkedIn, for example, we try and focus on selling 3 to 5K programs on LinkedIn. You sold 1 of those a month. That's enough for a decent business for some people.
Yeah.
You sold 2 a month, you're at 10K a month, just from this one platform.
And what's included, for instance, in that program for 5K?
Same as everything else. Nutrition plan, training program. They can maybe book in a call with you if they wanted to every 2 weeks. But the reality is the people who pay the most are the easiest to deal with because they're also busy and they're not going to harass you. Whereas like I started my fitness business by selling low ticket coaching programs at $47 a month. Those people were a pain in the arse to want to get on a one-to-one call with me. Whereas we had people paying like $10,000, $12,000 for a fitness program were like the easiest people to coach because they're busy and they understand. It's going to be told what to do, how to do it, when to do it. Cool, off I go. There's always going to be someone who's like pissed off for whatever reason. Like even though we've done everything from our side of things, that like they don't like they don't like whatever it is because they're not actually willing to do the work to get in shape. And I'm sure you've seen that. And at some point, it's like you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make it drink, is a bit of that analogy.
Yeah, but they won't.
No.
They just won't. Just like you mentioned. So the biggest problem was, so should I eat like this for a week? No. This is the meal plan for 3 months. Oh, there is no way I'm going to eat like this. It's too boring. Bro, what do you mean? Too boring? I eat this for 10 years almost.
Well, I pretty much eat the same thing for 10 years as well. Just slightly different amounts. Like, I eat yesterday, chicken, rice, oats, whey protein, a protein shake.
Same thing.
Fruit, like...
Seasonal fruits.
Like the food hasn't changed in the last 10 years. Like, we haven't grown new
we've created
stuff.
a lot of them. 100 years ago, there wasn't that kind of shit that we consume right now.
But that's also the things people need to avoid. It's like one of the best tips I can get anyone from a health perspective is like, I'm big into like biohacking and nerdy brain stuff, is like, if you look on the back of a packet, how many ingredients has it got?
You can't read that stuff. Pronounce. There's no way. Hydroxy. What the?
So I'll give you another thing. I noticed whenever I come to the US, I get really bad heartburn. I don't know why. There's something in the food or something here that fucks with me a lot. Whereas like I've never had it anywhere else. And as an example, like different things being in, whether it's the water, whether it's the food, like that's triggering you, that if you're not used to it, you suddenly start to question a lot of things.
That's the same thing when you, for instance, go to India and for the first week you've got diarrhea. Yeah. That's it. You shit and shit nonstop. That's the same thing. Where do you think the fitness industry is going? What do you think is going to change? Because in the last, I want to say 2 to 5 years, a lot of new personas came up. For instance, Paul Saladino, the guy that says that cereals are bad. The only thing that we should eat is meat and fruits, no vegetables. All that's us. Stephen Gundry, doctor, says the same thing. But that's all new. Like in the past 3 years only occurred. What do you think the fitness industry is going?
I think it's going to go to more extremes. I think as a society we're going to see more extremes, and people try to come up with new gimmicky things that are making people look smart, but they can try and make money from. But my opinion is the basics are the only thing that ever really work in terms of nutrition and actually listening to your own body. Like if you eat something and it makes you feel shitty, you probably shouldn't eat it. Where I think there is going to be a lot of developments, a lot into like peptides, accelerated recovery, stuff like I've got red light therapy unit at home.
NFTs.
Like things like that can really, maybe more outside of the box. I think it's going to become more mainstream. But I think the biggest thing people should be aware of is that people are constantly going to be trying to sell you bullshit. Try not to buy into stuff that's like overly processed in particular types of food, and look at who's selling you it and why. Because I think a lot of people, say for example, like super influencers with big brands are coming out with like bullshit products just to try and make money, and anyone who knows anything can just see straight through it. Whereas a lot of products that actually have a lot of credibility and are really well made don't necessarily have that. So I'll give an example in terms of the best health supplement brand in the UK that probably many people would, definitely in the US, wouldn't have heard of. It's called Supplement Needs. The chief formulator for that is a very good friend of mine who was coaching me personally for maybe 4 years. It's a guy called Dr. Dean, and they basically max out all of the health supplements in terms of like the highest amount of ingredients you can get for performance. Whereas if you look in the US, they have like proprietary blends. They don't actually have to say what's in the supplement. They like hide it. It's like a fucking
secret formula.
Yeah, secret formula of like rice flour and like 0.1% creatine or something. And this is where like people need to see that their walls get pulled over their eyes a lot. And if you take the right information and execute it from the right people, you can really change your life. And I think the most important thing is that you also taking, say for example, a health supplement, like you take it today, you don't feel any different tomorrow. But if you take it for a while, like how you feel in like 10 years time is going to be insane. I had my blood work done like a week ago and had someone look at it, it's like, this is insane. Like really, really good. And the reality is that it's probably better than it was 10 years ago, even though I'm older.
What do you take yourself?
I take a shitload of stuff. I take all the Supplement Needs products in terms of they have a heart stack, a liver product, a kidney one as well, and then also like a multivitamin. If I'm at home, I take glutathione, I take curcumin, omega-3 fish oils, vitamin D3, methylated folate, zinc.
That blue stuff?
Yeah, zinc. And then I also take a lot of nootropics. So I take L-carnitine, lion's mane, cytocholine, I can't remember the other one's called phosphol something, it's a long word. And then I take low doses of modafinil maybe 2-3 days a week, which is not medical advice for him to take. But it's basically like the drug from Limitless, because I'm not looking for like average performance. I want maximal performance in areas of my life. So those are the core things I take in that side of stuff. I also do TRT as well, because I actually had low testosterone at 27.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, bro. It's like, it was literally like just above like the base range. I was like, fuck this. This is why I feel like shit. I got no confidence and no drive. And interestingly, as soon as I started that, I then became really driven, got in shape, and then started the business. So
yeah, testosterone for men are like magic drug. If you're low on testosterone, you're depressed,
You're
you don't want to
fucked.
do a thing. You're weak, you don't have a mood, nothing.
And I think that's something everyone should do. They don't get enough, is actually have their blood work look and like look under the hood. Whether you're in good shape or not, like if you're in really good shape, you should still do it, because you don't know. And for me, a lot of it's like peace of mind. It's like, okay, cool. Like I'm in good health. I'm not fucked. Because sometimes like I'm really tired, I'm drained because I've been working, like I feel stressed or whatever. You're like, or you got a bit of a headache. You're like, is that brain tumor? And like, it always goes in your head, right? You're like paranoid sometimes. Whereas I think the best thing you can do is like any problem is always get clarity by like look at the data and the facts. The same as like building a business with ads. It's like if you know the numbers, you know it's cool, it's going to work.
Yeah.
Same with your body. If you look at the blood work and like this is all good, then you're healthy.
What about TRT? Do you take it all year round?
Constantly, yeah.
For how many years now?
7 years or something like that.
Non-stop.
Yeah.
Doctors say it's good for
Yeah. My everything's in range for me, so I'm all good.
2 shots a week?
Yeah, I split it Monday, Thursday. I use testosterone ethanoate, so it's a long-acting testosterone, so then it doesn't fluctuate so much in my bloodstream. You can actually, there's a lot of studies say you can microdose it, but like I'm not really, and you can actually use an insulin needle, like sub-Q into like body fat, but I just, too much hassle. Oh, the other thing actually I forgot to say, I take growth hormone as well for like 2 to 3 hours of that when I'm at home, pre-bed, to help in terms of also anti-aging, recovery, skin, helps fat loss, everything really.
But in regards to TRT, can you do not injectional?
Yeah, I do the injections ones, but you can take the creams and stuff like that. Apparently,
cream.
But like, I don't really see the benefit of that. I would rather just, because like, say for example, you got a kid or something, a child, like you accidentally get testosterone on the child. I don't like it happens. Do you know what I mean? So like, do you know what I mean? So I think it just doesn't really make much sense to me.
The recovery goes through the roof with TRT and growth hormone?
Yeah, for most people. If your TRT if your testosterone is fucked, like that's literally ruining your life. And I think that's one of the benefits of actually one of the best things that happened in the last 10 years, that I think that's becoming more mainstream acceptable.
Yeah.
And that's changing a lot of men's lives. Because
literally,
when I was younger, I remember going to the doctor and they were like, yeah, your testosterone's fucked, like just tough shit. And then I just fucking sorted it myself essentially with like getting private advice. And you couldn't even get blood tests like maybe 10 years ago in the UK. Really, really difficult. And this is why now it's so much easier than ever to be in great shape, because we have a lot of open information of what works. Like when I was 18, dude, like YouTube had just come out. There was no free information. I think no one knew anything. It was like, even if you wanted like, say, guides on steroids or whatever, there was like these underground Bibles from like William Llewellyn or whoever of like anabolics that you could get from someone somehow as like a PDF. Whereas like there's enough information on anything on the internet now that you can make an informed decision on whether you should do something or you shouldn't do something.
Yeah, but what I like about the fitness industry right now, so in the past 10 years, I want to say the more and more athletes come up and say that I use these steroids, but they say that they use way less than the people than when in the 90s people used. Wow, that's a lot. For instance, the one that you're having a mastermind with, the Dorian. Bro, that guy was, I want to say, the grandfather of insulin, of growth hormone. He looked huge.
The level of drugs varies very much. And I think in particular, people have a more, like they have presumed more is better mentality. Whereas actually, it's a law of diminishing returns. And actually, once you go beyond a certain point, it's actually making you worse, because your body has so many health consequences, it can't function optimally. Which is like, if anyone's going to do that, it's like this supplement like everything else. It's the icing on the cake. If your nutrition is shit,
that's a good point.
Your training is shit. I know loads of people who take shitloads of anabolics who look like they've never even been in the gym.
I know a few of them as well,
geared to the nines, but they don't even look like they lift because they don't do the other stuff that actually makes a difference.
Yeah. So I want to say Chris Bumstead is taking way less than...
Oh, bro. I heard on a podcast, I think, what he was taking. He takes like nothing compared to some of the other. Like there'll be amateurs who take 4 or 5 times as much as him. And this is what people have to understand is like, bodybuilding is a genetics game. You either have it or you don't. There's no like hard work pays off with body. Like, you're going to stand next to Chris Bumstead and not look shit. Like, you can't outwork that because you just don't have that structure and frame. And you can't train for that.
Bro, I'm a fan of UFC. I don't know whether you
Yeah.
So that's gonna sound racist, but it is what it is. Every time I see African American, a black guy, they're jacked, and they're in the same weight class as the white guys. Yeah. There's no way the genetics are the same. They're totally 100%. Different.
And it's if you look at black people generally, they struggle to get like really dry and conditioned because they tend to have much more like bubbly looking muscle tissue, and that's why I almost make jokes with some of my friends. It's like, who's the best white bodybuilder in the world? Because I don't like, it's difficult generally for white girls to compete against the black guys because they have much better genetics just generally, even athletically.
Yeah.
And that's fair to say. If you look at the NFL, for example, I don't know what the statistics are, but I imagine, or like sprinters, like they have more faster like muscle fibers than white people.
NBA players.
It just is what it is. And that's not racist to white people, racist to black people.
They're just superior.
It's just a fact. Yeah. Athletically, they are superior. Like black people are superior to white people. It's a fact.
And I know a few black people that don't work out at all. They're jacked.
Yeah, 100%.
Like, the biceps is like it's hanging like this. It's so long and it's hanging like this.
And it's what you see. Different populations. I would even say, like Chinese people, for example, are amazing at squatting because they tend to have very good mechanics in terms of limb length. Like. It's stereotypical, but it's true. And if you look at different nationalities, you tend to see different trends. Even if you look at Eastern Europe, for example, like somewhere like Poland, it's proven that people from that region have higher abilities to handle cortisol and stress because throughout hundreds of years they've had so much warfare and shit going on that their stress tolerance is way higher than a lot of other places in the world because they've been brought up in this type of difficult lifestyle.
Or let's take Ethiopians that almost win every Olympics in the marathons. Yeah, they look like skeletons, but they run fast.
So an interesting statistic about that is the reason they have such long legs is because of the heat. Your body can lose more heat from having longer limbs. So because they've lived in that climate for a very long time, genetically, they're predisposed to have longer legs. Their bodies can get rid of more heat, not necessarily for running. But then it obviously becomes an advantage from a running point of view.
Adaptation. And what we see right now in the streets is that adaptation as well. Great life, a lot of junk food, and they weighed 300 pounds. So the first time I got into the US and I saw obese people, the US people that are obese are not like Europeans obese people. It's like another planet.
I've never, like, this is why, like, I was just shocked.
Yeah.
Because, like, Dubai, you don't really see fat people.
How is it physically possible?
Yeah, I'm just, like, confused looking at them. Because I'm like,
there's something in the food.
At what point do you even think that you don't need to deal with this? Like, there's been a bit chubby and overweight, right? Like, not everyone has to have a fucking 8-pack. Like, if you like, but these people are like insane.
Yeah, you will never see that in Europe. Like, never.
No.
Europeans, they can have a belly.
It might be a bit of a beer belly. Like, Spain, like Spanish people, a bit of a beer belly, right?
Even if they are obese, French guys, Russian, Ukrainians, Lithuanians, they're obese. But not like in the US.
Yeah.
But if they eat, for instance, the same Snickers, Skittles, McDonald's, and the same stuff, they should look the same. But the problem is that the same products like Skittles, Snickers, all that stuff in the US has way different ingredients than in Europe. That's why they're so fucked up. They're so big, like they have 2 chairs, like literally. They have to have wild. 2 chairs just to sit. Like that is wild. Charlie, the last question on my podcast is always the same. So let's have 2 assumptions with you. Assumption number 1 is the President of the United States is the most powerful human being on planet Earth. I know you're laughing because right now the guy is not, I believe, the most powerful human being. But
who is?
Huh?
Who is the most powerful person on the planet?
Let's say the President of the United States. He is the most powerful human being on planet Earth. Assumption number 2 is you become one. You become the President of the US. The Secret Service comes to you and says, congratulations, Mr. President. We love you. We respect you. You're the president now. We, as a Secret Service, know all the answers in the world. You ask us, we give you an honest answer. We know the whole truth. What would be your first question?
That's a very, very good question to ask. Is there one person running the entire financial system for the world?
Let's say they give you an honest question. They say, yes, there is. You as being as a US president, the most powerful human being on planet Earth, would you expose it to the public?
Yes.
Really?
Because you then go down as probably the person who completely changes the world.
And you probably get killed.
You can't be killed if you're the United States president.
Oh, really? 1963, Kennedy, shot.
Yeah, but I think you'd have to be a long thought about it. My initial reaction would be to yes. It depends whether it was like, if I thought they were good or bad, or what the agenda was. Because ultimately, my opinion, there's probably 6 people who run the planet who we don't even know about.
Probably it is. It is true. I believe our generation is the one that's going to change the world in regards to, we saw what the 40-year-olds and 50-year-olds do with us and with the humanity and the population of the planet. What kind of children do they raise, and what kind of problems do those children have right now? They tend to suicide more. They tend to don't even know what their gender is, depression, drugs, all that stuff. So these are fucked up. So we look and learn. I have a child. He's a 5-year-old. I know exactly how I'm raising him and what I want for him. I believe you do as well. And I believe the podcasts like these help people just to have something new in their head, like a thought. Maybe I should not consider doing this, or maybe I should consider doing this. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your wisdom. God bless you.
Thank you.
And see you next time, bro.
Yeah. Thank you very much.